We are learning more tonight about the outrageous public spending habits of former Alberta Premier Alison Redford. She was run out of office by her party after details emerged about just how much money she was spending on exclusive travel and hotels. Well, there's even more to her high-flying life. Redford had a so-called travel scout, a woman who traveled the world checking out hotels and restaurants to make sure the Premier was properly pampered. Vashi Capellos has the story.
Alison Redford's high-flying ways led to her resignation.
I am resigning as Premier of Alberta.
But she had help. Turns out Redford had a travel scout, Michelle Tetro. Tetro flew to places like China, India, London and Washington ahead of the Premier to figure out where Redford would stay and eat, along with the local customs. The problem for critics? Tetro racked up nearly $330,000 of expenses in 20 months on the job.
The advanced work that this particular staffer seems to have done is really information about public washrooms, souvenirs, fluffing of pillows, the best Chinese restaurant to go to, and I'm not so sure that Alberta taxpayers will tolerate this.
Not everyone agrees. Elie Alboim worked in the Prime Minister's office under Paul Martin. He hasn't looked at Tetro's expenses in detail, but he says most, if not all, politicians have advanced teams.
Briefing her on local customs and what to expect, I think, is only appropriate. None of us would really want our leaders to go somewhere and be embarrassed from a lack of knowledge.
Still, critics say a premier's work is different from the Prime Minister's. We checked with other provinces, and only Ontario would admit to any kind of formal advance team. The Alberta government says up until Redford came to power, it didn't have one either. A spokesperson says the travel scout position was created at the direction of the former premier to meet her specific needs related to travel. It's just the latest spending scandal to hit Redford. Months after stepping down as premier, last week she resigned her seat in the legislature after the RCMP was called in to investigate her use of government planes. Before that, it was the luxurious penthouse she wanted to build with taxpayer dollars and the now infamous $45,000 trip to Nelson Mandela's funeral. The opposition says someone should have stopped her and her travel scout.
Ultimately, the buck stops at the minister who's responsible or the premier who's responsible.
As for the current premier and ministers, nobody was available to comment. Vashi Capellos, Global News, Ottawa.
In Ferguson, Missouri tonight.